Happy Friday, youth developer. Today's interview is with Zack Garrett, an Olympic silver medalist, an entrepreneur, photographer, and my personal coach. Today's topic is not only about his journey, where what he has done, but where he is going and the one skill he wants to leave with us, which is learning how to learn. Stay tuned. I met Zack in Jersey, and let's give kudos to the archery place. Oh my goodness, did I just start?
Stark. Yeah, Stark Archery. It's a great place.
So met Zack at Stark Archery. Is it Academy? Is that the name of it, or?
I think it's just Stark Archery. Yeah.
Okay. Yes. And I know I was very nervous, like just sharing my dream of also going to the Olympics. But Jay was so open to that. I don't know what came into me that I was just so like open and vulnerable. I was like, listen, this is what I want. I know I'm 40, I think at that time I guess I was 41 or 42, and age doesn't matter, so this is what I want to do. And when he called me saying that you were coming over, and I was like, this guy is not going to take me seriously either, but you know what, I'm going to go and meet him. So I just love that from the beginning it was such a mutual respect. And it's beyond archery. That's why you're here, because a lot of the things that you have coached me, or when we train together, it's really here.
Yeah.
More than like even the technique or anything else. And I love our conversation. So I know that I'm very grateful, and I'm very grateful you're here in the channel, sharing a little bit about your story. So
I first started archery when I was really young. I was probably like 4 or 5, and it was one of the times that my grandparents came. My grandparents lived in Pennsylvania, and they would come out to visit us every year. And my grandfather made a bow for me, and taught me how to shoot when I was really young. And I mean, that kind of like started my passion for it. But it was, at that time, it was more just like, I don't know, something you do for fun. Just go out in the yard and shoot some arrows and see how far you can make it go. But yeah, as it's progressed, I mean, so then I was 4, and then I got involved in 4-H when I was 8, and then I shot with 4-H for a while in their different shooting sports, and then from there I started competing with USA Archery, and then I did that until I graduated high school. And I still compete for USA Archery, but when I graduated high school, that's when I turned professional. And really what that meant is I moved to California and decided to be a part of the training group at the Olympic Training Center. And that was kind of like my dedicated push to make the Olympic team.
Got it. So how long were you in California before the Olympics?
Let's see. It would have been 3 years. I graduated in 2013. Okay. And that's like, you go out there and you have a training regimen, and then you do this thing. You do the training plan every day, except Sunday. So it's 4 days of like 8-hour days, and then 2 days of the week are 4-hour days, and then 1 rest day.
Got it. Okay. So, I mean, really after high school, moved to California, you knew exactly what you wanted, right? And you made it to the Olympics. How was that experience, your first time at the Olympics?
Yeah, it was really amazing. I mean, I grew up watching the Olympics. So like, that's why I was so inspired to do it and to be a part of the games, was just growing up and watching it and loving the experience of watching it. And then it was really a dream come true to be a part of it. But yeah, everyone talks about how nerve-wracking it is, and really you can't really expect anything when you go, and it just kind of like exceeds your expectations and surprises you, I would say.
Let's talk about those who are in high school, who are competing right now. what would be some advice? It doesn't have to be one or two, whatever. What would be some steps or advice for someone who's in high school right now who wants to go to the Olympics?
Okay, so my advice to really anybody in high school is just that you should lead a varied lifestyle. Like don't put yourself into one thing and then say that this is what I'm going to do and then like only do that. There's a lot of studies that like early specialization actually leads to more athlete injury and like less success with their goals, and that these athletes like leave sport and just never do sports again. And it's just not really a healthy way to do it. So even though like this is your goal, I would say like lead a varied lifestyle, explore all your interests. High school is the time to do that. When I said that I went professional when I was out of high school, that's when I kind of stopped everything else and did archery full time. But during high school, I was involved in a lot of clubs. I played baseball all 4 years. I ran track my senior year. Like I did a lot of stuff. And I think that that was probably a huge asset for me and trying to make the Olympic team, is that like I wasn't a specialist. I wasn't only doing archery for 12 years or whatever. It was a varied childhood, and like you get a lot of experience from that you can draw on from your other sport background and apply to archery or whatever your passion is.
Yeah. I love that you're saying that, because you're actually leading by example, because as of right now, yes, you're an archer, you have been in the Olympics, you're going to the Olympics, and what are some other projects that you're currently working on?
So I guess I've always done a lot of things at once, and I do think that that's a good thing, but I also think there's a good time to focus, right? Like at some point you have to kind of narrow it down and apply all your energy to something. But that being said, because I'm bad at that, I'm currently working on some different archery products. I have a finger tab that I'm designing. I started a company when I was training for the first Olympics I went to that builds stabilizers. So we designed and built stabilizers and stabilization accessories. I sold that company to my old business partners a couple years ago, but I still do some design and consultation for them. I'm also interested in software. So I have a couple different programs that I'm developing that would help with archery and other sports as well. So
yeah, that's
a lot of different stuff.
So you started this company before you were 20 then, right?
Yes. So I graduated. I think I started it when I was 19. And then I started it with one of the people I was training with, and then some other people I was training with got interested. And then basically when it was all said and done, there were three of us, and all three of us had trained together at different times. And the other two guys are still co-owners of the business. And like I said, I do some consultation for them.
Right. That's cool. And you used like your energy was on the designing part, right? Designing the products, and you had business partners, which is so good. Because trying to do it all, it's not effective. So you're using your skills there. As far as the Olympics, I'm so interested. A lot of my best friends know that that's what I want to do. And so Olympics and coaching. So what's like in the future? I know you were going to be at the 2020, but it got postponed, correct?
Yep. Yeah. Well, we're still in the process of determining the team for that. So like nobody is like 100% confirmed, and that's still the case. Like we'll pick the team pretty close to the event. But yeah, I'm still trying to make that team. But anyways, yeah, that's what's going on there.
Okay. So, and what's after 2021? Do you still plan to do more Olympics? What's in the future for Zack Garrett?
Sure. Yeah. I don't know. I've been thinking about that a lot. So leading up to 2020 is kind of like, all right, I'm gonna move back to California. Actually, I was living in Jersey, like you said. I moved back to California, and I'm gonna train full time for 8 months, and we're gonna try to make this Olympic team. But now that it's postponed, there's a year, more than a year. And going to California then was like, there's no balance there. That's like, I'm going to quit everything else and only do this. And you can get really good that way. But now that I have another year, that gives me some time to set up infrastructure and potentially like integrate archery as more of a sustainable thing within my life. So
Yeah.
I would say that one of the things I want to do is continue to compete, but maybe not at the same, not in the same way. So typically when people are professionals in archery, they're going to be going to a ton of tournaments, but I really only care about the Olympics and world championships. So like if I was only competing in events every 4 years, well, I guess it'd be every 2 years, basically, trying to make a team and go to a high level event, that'd be awesome. So I guess my goal after 2021 is to, like, leading up to 2021 rather, is to set up this infrastructure that allows me to continue to compete on my own terms afterwards, but in a way that I don't have to rely on archery for my income. I don't have to rely on it like as my job, but more of like a eccentric hobby that maybe makes me a couple dollars each year.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I mean, I know it's still your passion, so you wanna enjoy, and I feel the pressure is because I'm assuming there's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, there can be. I would like for it, as long as it is something that I really enjoy doing, I'd like to continue doing it. But I think that one of the things that saps the enjoyment out of it is like the financial stress of, if you're only doing archery, well, how are you going to make money? And coaching staves that a little bit, but like that's also not totally sustainable. And coaching is more of like a passion project for me than a job, I think. Right. So like it's been kind of a different skill to learn, is like, how do you integrate this in a way that is sustainable for a long period of time? And I have some ideas on it, and we'll see how they play out over the next year or so.
Right. Yeah, no, those are, like those important questions we gotta ask. And I didn't know this. I didn't know that you had many other interests until just recently, maybe about a year ago. Because in my mind, and I think a lot of people assume that athletes, especially athletes who are, who are competing in the Olympics, that's all they do, and that's like entirely their lives, and they don't care about anything else.
And a lot of times those athletes are kind of one-dimensional. But there are also a lot of cases where like that one-dimensional side is the only side that they really care for the public to see. Like it kind of helps to compartmentalize a bit. Like the people who follow me for archery, they can follow me for archery, but I don't really care if they know what else I'm interested in that much. That's more my own thing. But then again, like showing people what you are interested in helps to build your persona a bit. So it's multifaceted in that way, but I would say that we're all kind of multidimensional. Maybe it's just like how much we all want everyone else to see. Then again, there are people who are specialists, like we were talking about earlier, that like this is the only thing that they do. I don't want to be that.
Yeah. No, it's true. I mean, I love hearing that, because I think a lot of people may think that if they didn't start when they were young, then they will never make it to the Olympics. And I'm like completely 110% against that. It's when you focus, you narrow down, and you lead with passion, but what you want to do and what you envision for yourself, go for it. And I love the archery has no age limit. I love that, So after doing a lot of research on what sport I was going to focus, because for me, archery wasn't, it was basically, I researched my body, my age, and it was archery and a few other sports. And that was obviously after the movie. Yes, the movie Hunger Games was very inspirational.
There's an influence.
I'm a little embarrassed to say that, but I mean, it's a great movie. It's a great movie. The book is okay, but the movie is great. But it's great because you know it was something that now that I'm practicing, that it just the breathing for me, the discipline of doing it in the first thing in the morning, all those things align with the other things that I'm doing.
Yeah,
so like,
I think it fits pretty well for you, like
yeah.
like as a part of your personality and everything. So I do think you made a good choice, and you're right. Like it's not limited by age, and
Yes.
there are some circumstantial things like we just kind of happened to meet, right? And that's kind of the way that I met my coach as well. It's funny how that works, but uh, yeah, it is one of the sports where you kind of get out of it what you put into it, and if you have a good um, kind of wide perspective, I think it makes it easier to learn in general. So I think it was a really good choice. I'm glad you picked archery.
Yeah, and one of the things that I see myself in the future is also on the coaching part,
Mm-hmm.
and as a language coach on helping people understand that the story that they tell themselves between the two ears
Mm-hmm.
determines their identity and how they see themselves, and then actually it affects the outcome. To
Yeah.
me, it's very fascinating, you know, and my dream for Olympics in the long run is to take more athletes from my country. I'm Peruvian, and so we have this track record of not making it to the World Cup, and but again, it's like it's a story that a lot of Peruvians have told themselves that I want to help shift and create a new paradigm for them.
Yeah.
So
That idea is super pervasive in archery, what you're talking about. And that's something that a lot of our top athletes work on very heavily, is like how you frame something so simple as your last shot, and how that framing within your mind impacts the next one, and how you frame an outcome, and how really, like, when a situation happens, you don't automatically think, you don't automatically feel about that situation. It goes like um, uh, circumstance, and then perception, and then emotional response, right?
yes.
But the problem is that that perception happens so quickly, and unless you're aware of it, that people have this uncontrolled emotional response. So then it seems like it's just circumstance emotional. But like if you learn that there's that third step in there, or that in between step there, then you can actually start to control the emotional response.
Yeah.
So like when people become aware of that, and people realize that like you really have the power to frame any circumstance, then you can excel a lot easier. So yeah, I think that that's super powerful, and I think that's an awesome mission.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, this is kind of like where our conversations are anyway when I'm in the garage. And what I tell a few of the people who, when I meet like one-on-one, people who are my mentors, so let's say they share something about, you know, Patty, you know, just like you gotta like go about XYZ, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, that's exactly what Zach just said yesterday about this, you know? So it's like, it aligns with so much of our character of who we are. It's like, it's very vulnerable.
It's funny, like when you surround yourself with people that are high performing in different areas, you end up hearing the same thing repeated over and over again.
Yes.
The same few ideas, and like, when you really ingrain those ideas into everything you do, it becomes easier to succeed in those areas as well. I do want to share something else though that I think is important for people to remember, and that's that, like, at this time we live in this really interesting world where every piece of information is on the internet. So you mentioned a second ago, like, okay, this guy has a lot of interests, like, wow, he's excelling in these areas. But I really believe that the important thing is to have a pattern of how to learn a skill. So like a pattern of acquiring knowledge, I think, is the thing. Like if I were to sum up my skills into one like keystone skill, it's learning how to learn. And I think that I do that really well. Is like, okay, when I go to acquire information, or when I get interested in something, so okay, programming is a great example. My first step, actually, no, I'm going to use learning a language as an example. I speak Korean as my second language, actually.
Very cool.
So my routine for learning that was, okay, I'm interested in it, and then I do research. So I researched, okay, what is the most efficient way for me to learn a language? And I spent a couple of days just not even trying to learn, but researching how to learn a language. The next step was applying the things that I learned from the research. And then finally, like, okay, so applying what I learned looked like, first step, I learned grammar. Second step, I started learning what are the 100 most popular words, like commonly used words. And then the third step was application, and just immediately trying to talk to people. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, every skill I learn is going to follow that same pattern. Like I get interested in archery, I watch videos, I learn what's important about archery, then I acquire information about the sport, and then I apply it. When I'm learning programming, I do research, then application, and then feedback. So like if you can learn that pattern and get good at it, you can really learn any skill. And like nobody's really predisposed to any skill. It's really just like having the capacity to learn how to do it. And yeah, that part's easy once you learn how to learn.
Learn how to learn. I believe we have the subject for this video. I want people to be inspired that it's never too late. I want people to be inspired to self-reflect on their passion, on their strength. And you just gave them a tool, the tool of, learn how to learn, and to understand that it's the patterns and the habits and the rituals that you set up for yourself.
Exactly.
That could apply.
I think you do that well. Most, if not all of the really high performing individuals that I know do this, but a lot of times they don't understand that they are doing it. Like they have the pattern, but they're not recognizing the pattern. And like when you point it out, they're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. That's how I do it. I had another friend of mine who's incidentally also really good at archery explain that he thinks of learning like laying bricks or building a wall. So he'll like lay a brick or a couple bricks, and then like each brick represents a piece of knowledge or something that he's trying. And then if he finds that something's not working, he like takes off bricks and then has to rebuild the section. But at the end of it, you have this wall, and that's like that's the skill. You're building this skill, which is building the wall. I thought that was a really interesting way to put it, but it's true. Like every person I know who has skills that span a wider range of areas has like perfected this art of learning different skills. Most of the specialists that I talk to, like they've gotten really, really good at one skill, but it was through trial and error in that. It wasn't because they learned how to learn different skills. I think that's one of the big differences between specialists and generalists. And I personally would rather know as much about as many things as possible, or at least be adept at as many things as possible. So that pattern is super important to me.
Yeah, I love it. That is such a great takeaway and a call to action to apply those things.
And it's something that everybody can do on their own. So with or without me.
Yeah.
But that being said, I am happy to give guidance and like give more information on what that pattern looks like for me and how do I apply it. So if somebody did want to reach out to me on Instagram and has any questions about that, I'm happy to do what we're doing right now and just talk about it.
I love it. Yes. Let's start the conversations. Yep. And what a great way just to end today, really, because yeah, it brings it home. This is Olympics is not like this heavenly place, right? It's a great achievement, and I know for me, I was about 7 years old, 1984. Yeah, I'm 76. How old am I, Zach? I was born 76.
25.
Okay, so 1984, I must have been, that's 4 and 4. I was 8.
Yeah.
8 years old, looking at the Peruvian volleyball team lose to, I think it was it was Korea. Who was it? No, Japan. It was Japan. And I have Japanese in my family. And so it was like this, it was so sad. We were so happy. We were like celebrating every point. We were like throwing a party. I still remember. And then when we lost, it was such sadness in the room. It was so quiet. And I remember just quietly saying, one day we're going to bring victory to my flag. I'm going to bring that flag to the Olympics, like this is a dream, and it just, and, I folded it in, and it kind of was to put away. And it's really, as we evolve and we learn more about ourselves and we want to be open, then this dream came back. So,
well, that's super, super cool. Like, I think it's really powerful to chase something like that down. And the same kind of thing in my experience too, or with my Olympic experience, I guess. Like, I would say one of the things I've learned from like seeing that journey all the way through is that while the Olympics is this like crazy achievement, at some point it is just a thing. It's a way that we measure our goal, right? Like, it's, I think to think of the Olympics as the goal can be a bit limiting, and it makes it harder to accomplish. But if you think of it as like kind of a key performance indicator, maybe, or like something that's along the way, then you can make the real goal something else, something that's maybe more meaningful. And then the Olympics is an objective, not the whole goal. Right. And I found that that's helped me to be a lot happier. So for my first Olympics, the Olympics was the goal, and now it's really not. Like, it's something that's an objective, but the goal is maybe more intrinsic. Or so anyways, it's just kind of food for thought, is like, what really is the goal? And even though the Olympics is this amazing thing, it is just a thing. It's just another objective. And I have been much happier trying to pursue that objective since I've reframed it a bit.
Yeah, that's a good word, reframing.
Yeah.
Checking our priorities, our purpose, and I love that you mentioned as an objective. Like, it's a stone in the path, in our road, and looking inwardly is much more fulfilling. than looking at the hourly thing. So, but Zach, thank you so much for talking to me and being in our channel. And this will go to the Youth Developer and YSuperstars, so awesome. Instagram could be in there as well. We'll tag you. We'll put all your links there in the bottom. And that wraps our interview with Zack Garrett. You could follow him at Zack the Archer on Instagram and Facebook.